Hey expats and travelers alike, I'm Josh with Expats Everywhere, and today we are here on a homestead talking about off-grid living, what it's like having solar panels. We're gonna meet Eco and Beyond, Guy and Kylie. Come and join me, let's go. Well guys, thanks for meeting us. It's absolutely a pleasure to be here. And before we jump into talking about the off-grid eco life, we've got to know a bit more about you guys and how you started. So tell us, what was happening in the UK at the time that you guys decided to move?
Good question. So we both come from like a tech background.
Okay.
So I was working as a web developer, programmer, but also a teacher in the UK, and actually really enjoyed life and the way that we were going about things. And it was, but we'd always been kind of looking for something a bit different, a bit more. Kylie has a huge background in traveling, which is something that she kind of introduced to me. And for a long time, maybe a few years, maybe.
Yeah, I think maybe for 5 years we were traveling to places looking for.
Yeah, just always keeping our eyes open to, is this a place where we could see ourselves spending a bit more time? Or, you know, maybe, I think originally we were kind of thinking about doing more of like a digital nomading type thing, moving around, not having a set place. But then I think over time we realized that we just wanted somewhere that we could call home. And it was a kind of impromptu long weekend in Lisbon that made us really consider Portugal.
Followed by an evening in a wine bar when we went, should we just move? Should we? And then we decided, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess coming from the UK, with there was the whole Brexit thing, which definitely gave us more of a nudge to make a decision one way or the other. And we decided to make the move. And I think we made that decision maybe in March 2020, and we arrived in Portugal at the end of August the same year.
And there was a lockdown in the way. So we decided, and we were like, great, we'll get our house on the market, our flat. And then lockdown literally the next week. So no estate agent come around and value the property, no listing, no nothing. And we're like, okay, so we're waiting desperately, waiting for that to open up again. The moment it did, I'm on the phone. Please, can you come and have a look and list our house? And then we managed to move here in between the two lockdowns.
Okay. We were very lucky.
It was very fast.
All of the time, all of this, you know, everything aligned, and we were able to. We'd done a lot of the research. We weren't going to have any issues moving from the UK to Portugal before the kind of the Brexit cutoff at the end of 2020, and so we were just able to kind of make some plans and execute on it, which was great.
Okay, so it sounded like Brexit kind of sped the process up.
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
You wanted to get here before things became more complicated.
Yeah.
You need different types of visas.
We would have qualified for a D7 visa, which is our backup plan.
Yep.
But we were just like, if we can get here before the end of Brexit, then it kind of just makes it easier.
Absolutely.
You just come here, register, right?
It was so easy.
Yeah.
It was super, super simple. And I know that, you know, D7 is also quite easy as well, but it's just a bit more bureaucratic. And we were just like, if we can just get here and get it all sorted before the end of 2020, then you know, life's our oyster effectively. And it has been really simple.
And a very easy transition.
Yeah, I mean, we've gone from inner city London living with big tech careers to the most rural of places that you can imagine, farming, growing our own food, making our own wine. Don't miss a thing. Just literally don't miss a single thing.
It's actually surprising how that transition has been, because it is quite like two extremes almost. But yeah, I don't know if we were always meant to do this or what, but you know, it was.
Or we just adapt. I
think,
we
just adapted to it. But there is something very, very, very peaceful about this place. The wind is really the only noise that we hear, and that kind of annoys us in any way, shape or form. But, you know, it's all part of the, you know, living in the countryside.
Yeah.
All right, so before we dive into kind of the lifestyle that you guys are living, what you left behind, a wine bar in Lisbon.
No, wine bar. So we had visited Lisbon.
Yeah.
We went back to London.
Yeah.
We're at our local wine bar deciding, having this discussion, when should we do this? And we were like, well, what's stopping us? Like now? I mean, we make quick decisions when it's the right decision.
Yeah.
And because we'd been looking for some years, you know, we'd gone to Bangkok and to Vietnam and many Southeast Asian countries. That's where we thought, considered Australia, where I'm originally from. And we were like, well, that's really super expensive. And then Guy would be away from his family. And Lisbon just clicked. Okay. You know, when you go somewhere and you just feel the energy of a city, and we were just like, this has got a really laid back, yet great wine, great food, super friendly people. And it was like, well, this is the best of both worlds, really laid back, but also a major city. And that's where we originally thought we would move to.
Yeah. That was the original plan.
It was.
And we started looking at properties in Lisbon, but it's very expensive compared to the interior of the country, where you get a lot more for your money and where there was a lot more choice. Yeah. But there was a lot of choice of a lot of crap. I don't know if I can say that, but lots of ruins, lots of places that are run down. And so it was like the hardest part was actually settling on an area and, you know, trying to dial in the kind of thing that we wanted to buy at all.
But the benefit of coming here for us was we could buy in cash and be debt free, which was just a dream that I've always had. Had we bought in Lisbon, the mortgage wouldn't have been that big compared to our London mortgage, but we still had that mortgage. And now we're kind of like, well, we can, if the world explodes and goes crazy, we can still support ourselves.
You mean more crazy?
We're more crazy. You know, we can still support ourselves and kind of still do the things that we want to do without being beholden to a bank, which was kind of a big thing for us. So it's
all right. Well, this is going to sound like a bit of a silly question, but you guys have been here about 11 months. What have been some of the challenges that you've had to making this property your home, your new home?
Oof, how long is this interview?
Yeah.
I'm sure there's many. But actually, whilst there have been many things to work out, obviously there's a language barrier. We're learning the language, but it's quite a tricky one to learn. Yeah. But actually, there's a surprising amount of English spoken even in this local area, which has really helped with the difficult things like legal stuff, finding property with real estate agents,
bank accounts,
dealing with bank accounts and all that kind of admin stuff, which is the less interesting side of a big move. But in terms of this place, it's been abandoned for 15, 20 years maybe. Yep. And so it was just, there was grass up to here that we had to kind of cut our way through to even get to the house to go and have a look around. The
challenge, I think, was finding the property in the first place. There's so much property, like so much, but it's in such bad state that to see through that is really difficult.
And how did you do that? How did you find this property?
We had a really good estate agent.
Yeah, we did, yeah.
So we did a lot of the normal websites and going on. But then we found this guy who took us to another property. I'd actually emailed him, so email does work. And he said, oh, the place that you're looking for doesn't have, I gave him the criteria. And he said, that doesn't have that, but what about this one? So when we got here, we came here for a week just to do a property
we took a trip in July 2020 before we moved, just to kind of, to dial in where we could get a rental apartment, but also to start the process of looking just to see what was around.
And so he took us to a couple, and we went back to London, and he kept in contact. And as when we came back, he's like, I've got some more to show you. So we, and he understood what we were looking for.
And was very proactive, which was great.
And he wasn't an estate agent. He's like a broker almost that sits and goes to multiple estate agents.
Right.
But also not very pushy. He was completely honest with every single property. He's like, okay, so this property has this problem and has this problem, and you need to get that. So we really felt like that was a good thing. And then when we found this one, it did have a problem. So we went to our lawyer and said, can you have a look at the paperwork and tell us, like, is he telling us the truth and is everything? And she's like, oh yeah, I can sort that for you. And it's taken a while, but it's, almost sorted. We're down
sorted.
One week left and it'll all be sorted.
But yeah, there's often those kind of complications because of the way that property kind of changes hands through generations here. I mean, in this village where there's maybe like 20 houses, there's lots of family relationships between different people. And sometimes they're close, like brothers and sisters, and sometimes they're maybe cousins or, second cousins twice removed, or I don't know, all the relationships. But when the property kind of changes hands between people without paperwork because it's family, it makes it difficult when someone comes in from the outside to try and buy. But nothing is unsolvable.
Just got to be willing to put the time in, and you've got to have a really good lawyer that you trust, which we were quite lucky to find one that she does a great job.
Which also came through recommendation.
Yeah, so we've talked about some of the challenges that you guys have had, and you've said the people that have helped you along the way have been a good estate agent or broker, someone that can help you find a property, and then having that realtor that can help you. How about with the type of lifestyle you guys are trying to live in terms of growing your own vegetables and doing the construction? Are there some people that have helped you along the way there?
YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube is basically it, and
I've heard of it.
I'm a fan. In two different ways, because we can go and watch other people's videos and learn, different ways for growing or different techniques of building, but also because we have our own YouTube channel and we're sharing what we're doing, sharing the journey of finding this place first and then kind of bringing it back to life. People leave us comments and they go, "Oh, have you thought about this?" Or, "Oh, here's a great place to go and get tools," or here's a solution for some of the problems that you've been experiencing.
And we've had an exceptional amount of help with that. So things that we couldn't find here in Portugal. And I just one recently, I was looking for a non-toxic pesticide treatment for in the house for the timber.
Like a woodworm treatment.
Yeah, like a woodworm treatment. I don't want to use anything that's non-toxic, and all the chemicals they have here are toxic, sorry. And in the UK, I do something called boron.
Okay.
And I just mentioned in a video, and then all these Portuguese people sent me links to, so then we had these discussions about, so borax is the same thing as boron. One is a trading name, one is a mineral. And they sent me a link to where I can find it in Portugal. And so there's so many examples of that where we've got stuck with something and people have said, "Oh, have a look at this," or "What about that?" And it's, or just recommended other channels that we can go and have a look at. So we find that amazing from YouTube that people are...
It's a great little community.
Yeah, and I've been pointed at white papers and all kinds of things to help with the research that we're doing to restore this house. And it's, nothing like... I just didn't expect that from people. And it's been really, really amazing.
Fantastic. We've noticed the same thing. We've gotten stuck somewhere, or we've just been curious about something that we haven't been able to talk to someone in person about. We can put it in the comment section or on our community tab, and boom, you have people chiming in. That's the beautiful thing about social media.
Absolutely.
No, indeed.
All right, so let's talk a bit about the eco lifestyle. You guys just recently put out a video on that. So people can watch that one, but if you can give our audience an indication of what that means to you.
It's actually a really big topic that we spent ages kind of trying to distill into, because it's eco as a word means so many things to so many people. It's very loaded term, and even environmentally friendly means different things. But our kind of nutshell is that it's an approach to living. Like it's a way to consider the environmental impact of your decisions and your choices. That's kind of the best way. Mindset is another word we use. And so we like these kind of terms of eco-aware, eco-conscious, that everything you do, just have that as a way to think before you buy, consume, kind of do. That's the easiest way to kind of sum it up.
And I think the way that we try to approach it is try to consider many things, not just the individual problem or looking at an individual product against another one on its merits, but trying to take into account the bigger picture and knowing that you can't be perfect because perfect is just this illusion that people like to say, "Oh, you're not doing enough," or "You're not this," or "You're not that." And this stuff is complicated because there's, depending on where you look or what research papers you read and the agenda of who put that research together, in some cases, you can get a lot of conflicting information. And there is essentially, it's just a series of compromises. And so we like to be aware of that, and we like to take those things into consideration rather than being dogmatic about, "You must do this," or "You must have none of that," or "You must have all of this," because that also just just makes life very stressful. Very stressful. And one of the reasons
the eco-anxiety is a real thing. Like people get real, "Oh, I'm not doing enough," or "So-and-so is doing that, I should be doing that." And it's like, well, you also don't know what context that they're doing that in. You know, there's time, there's family, there's money, there's, you know, what you have available,
Absolutely,
exactly, all of that stuff. And so what someone makes a decision for may not be the best decision for you based on your context and priorities and values. Like we all have different values. And the and beyond, so eco and beyond in our channel name, that and beyond is about all your other values. So, you know, the ethics and the morals and fair trade and all of those other bits and pieces that we all intrinsically have those values. And eco is just one of those. So it's kind of taking all of that and making the best decision at that time for the situation that you're in.
Beautiful. I love that. Okay, so a part of being eco-friendly, if I can use that term now.
Sure.
Let's talk about...
You can use whatever term you like. Because it's whatever it means to you.
Let's talk about off-grid living. It's a question that we've gotten a lot, which is kind of funny for our channel because we clearly don't live off-grid. We live in these apartments in cities. How's it been starting that process of going off-grid here? You've got solar panels. Tell us a bit about that.
So the first thing is we've chosen off-grid. We've chosen it. We don't have to be off-grid.
Okay.
So the house actually had power, has electric when we bought it. That got turned off when there was the change of ownership. And we chose to not reconnect it again because we wanted to go solar. We want renewable energy and we want to be in control of the energy that we use, both from a production but also from a consumption. And that's mostly just about the fossil fuels.
Okay.
You know, we don't want to encourage industry to use more fossil fuels.
Sure.
Although in some cases we have to with some of the, you know, with cars and some of the tools that we have. So again, it's finding that balance of where can you remove something by doing something else. But one of the reasons that we also have the solar setup out here is because we're not actually living in the house at the moment. We bought this property to renovate, but it's not habitable. But we wanted to be here on the land so that we can observe and we can start the process of bringing the land back to life. And that's why we built this deck and this shed behind us, which actually houses our solar equipment at the moment and some of our kitchen stuff. And we live in the tent here whilst we're doing all the work. And so this was not connected to the grid. And so because we wanted to experiment with solar, and maybe we'll even experiment with other forms of renewable energy in the future, that was kind of an easy decision to be like, well, we're going to need power here because we need a fridge and we need to be able to, you know, have lights and, you know, we make YouTube videos, so we need computers and stuff like that. But yeah, putting something in here was, you know, using solar as an off-grid solution was just the simplest thing that we could come up with.
And
so
Portugal
that it was
has
possible.
so much sun, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like in the summertime, you know, we've got 11 or 12 hours a day of sunlight, so it's absolutely a no-brainer. In the winter, that will test our consumption patterns for sure.
Okay.
But we implemented a smaller array than what we'll probably end up having so that we can get the data. So the data through the winter, we're really looking forward to seeing
it'd be really interesting.
how much sun we get and how much that produces and how much we consume and what of our habits we need to change.
And is this something that you guys are going to talk about on your channel? Okay.
Yeah, we've talked a little bit about it. We did a bit of a tour of the off-grid setup that we've got, including the tent and the cooking facilities. And I don't know how much, I can't remember how much detail we went into there.
Just kind of explained the system,
yeah, the kind of high level of it.
All the pieces.
Yeah.
And we will be upgrading it as well. So we bought it or designed it so that we could scale it up when we move to the house, because the house is obviously going to have dishwashers and all those kind of things that we obviously don't have here. But yeah, it's something that we wanted to get that data so that when we moved to the house, we could watch what we've been doing in the winter and see, okay, what do we need? And do we need a generator for when we have those weeks of grey? Or how do we get around that? Like, how do we change our lifestyle? And we have some other friends who, they have just solar panels, no batteries. So they run all their appliances in the day. So they've had to change the way they live so that they can, you know, get the benefit of all the sun, and then in the evening they don't just use as much.
Very low consumption, right?
Yeah, exactly. So you really have to think about that, because it's, you know, just getting off grid is not just the equipment that you've got to buy. You've got to be willing to look at what you do and then change or not. right? Some people are like, no, I'm not going to do that. That's, you have to take that into mind when you size your system and know where you're going with it. Like you're going to want to be off-grid because people get solar here and are still connected to the grid. Right. But Portugal doesn't pay for anything you feed back to the grid, unlike the US, for example.
Yes.
That doesn't happen. So you're feeding it back to them for free. Like they get all the energy and you get nothing. It's like,
it's a bummer.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. Again, ethically, I don't agree with that, but you should be having to invest in all this stuff and give them your energy. It's like,
yeah. Okay, so speaking about investment, I'm really curious. How much did the system cost?
The solar system, which is, we have 6 panels that are 400 watts each. We have 4 batteries, which are 2.4 kilowatt hours each. And we have a 5 kilowatt inverter. And the whole thing was 5,000 euros?
I think it was 6,500.
6,500
But that's
euros.
also with all of the consumer unit and all the earthing and all the extra bits that we had to get to hook up the whole system. So,
and we can add to it in the future if we need to. We've obviously changed some of our consumption habits, living in a kind of very small scale here at the moment. And so maybe we'll be able to continue some of that through when we move into the house. The house will also still be off-grid in the future. And I think it would be quite interesting for people to see that you can have a modern home with,
But we're going to have smart technology and everything. So it's not going to be the typical off-grid lifestyle that most people consider with off-grid. Is we're going to have a modern home with all the things, because we like nice stuff and we want to live comfortably. Yeah, exactly. Right? So we're going to have all of that stuff, but we will change the way we use the power. And that's, I think, the biggest part is like if you use your dishwasher and your washing machines and all the things in the middle of the day when the sun is up and you're getting it straight from the sun, you're not taking out of your batteries. So then the batteries are for getting you through the nighttime and through the couple of days when it's not so much sun, and not using the washing machine and the dishwasher on the days when there is no sun. That's the biggest thing we've learned, is really watching that data to start changing those habits. And we've had a couple of incidences where like 2 grey days in a row, and we just don't use things. Like we're like, well, we can't use the oven. We can't use, the high-powered blender that we have. It just takes too much power. So you just change the way you live a little bit. But again, if you don't have the data, you don't know what it is that you're using that takes all the power. So it's the data that means that you can then make some changes.
And you were saying that you get a lot of questions about off-grid living and stuff like that. I would say to anyone who is interested in doing that, one of the first things to look at is trying to gather some data of your current situation.
Your current usage.
Just make a list of some of the appliances that you use, how many hours a day do you have your laptop plugged in and charging? How big is your fridge? Do you have an electric cooker or is it gas? Because that's going to take a lot. And just kind of start making some notes about what you have and how much you use it, and try and do some very simple calculations to get an idea of how much power you're using. Or you can just look at electricity bills and kind of take an average over the year and see kind of what you need. And that can then start to inform some of the decisions about how big your system needs to be.
We actually started, before we got the solar, we have this big solar battery. It's called an EcoFlow, and it's got, what's the charge in that?
Oh, it's like 1.2 kilowatt hours of battery storage. You can plug it into the mains or you can plug it into solar panels.
So we were charging it in the day, and then when we first moved here, we didn't have the solar. So we were still trying to run our fridge and our computers, and we would get most of the way through the night on that very small battery. And then the next morning we'd plug it into and the fridge will just stay cold as long as it's shut. So it was fine that it ran out at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And then we just get up the next morning and we'd plug it back into the solar panels, and by 11 o'clock it'd be charged again. And we were like, cool.
And we were using it as like a job site power source, so that we could kind of, it's very heavy, it must be like 30 kilos or something, carry it down to the house and you can plug in the power tools, but they're running off this little battery bank, rather than having to install a power system down there. Now we have a long extension cable plugged into the system here, so it means we can get power wherever we need it, which is
But we still use that battery now
absolutely.
when we want to just quickly take something. And it runs like our hammer drill and quite some beefy,
some tools.
And it's been a lifesaver for that period when we were without power.
Nice. You guys have talked a lot about the different changes that you've made, kind of some adaptations along the way that you found you needed to make. And I'm curious, you lived in the UK a year ago, and you've been here almost a year. What's the biggest change that you've made or that you've recognized internally?
I think the biggest one for me would be the pace of living.
Okay.
We have 100% slowed down, and it actually took us months to slow down.
Yeah.
We were always like, oh, gotta, whatever, right? And then we were just
we still do that sometimes.
Yeah, we still, and we're like, well, but why? What's the rush?
Die hard.
Yeah,
exactly.
It really took, and for the first 3 months we were in a rental. And Guy was working, and so I wasn't, and I was just sitting around going, what am I going to do? Like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
And I mean, it was a great opportunity. I read some great books and started learning some Portuguese, but that's what forced me to slow down. But by the time he finished teaching, he was still go. And
I think I applied it to all the projects that we were doing here, because we wanted to be able to put in the infrastructure so that we could move onto the property, so that we weren't driving backwards and forwards all the time. And so that we could, as I said earlier, kind of start to observe the land and the weather patterns and stuff like that. So yeah, slowing down has been surprisingly difficult because I think we're still young. We're very driven, motivated people. Even when we're not working with our hands, we're working with our brains, doing research, or we're doing the YouTube stuff. So that takes quite a lot of time and effort as well. So yeah, we have slowed down, but we have to keep reminding ourselves to take it easy. There's no rush. Yep. It's what's the cheesy phrase? It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yep.
A question that people often ask us is, how long is this project going to take? And
we asked you guys that.
And you asked earlier on.
Yep.
And the short answer is, it will never be finished, because there'll always be something new, an improvement to make, something that needs fixing or mending.
I mean, we just love doing. Like, we love being active and doing and creating. And so there will never be a day when we don't have a list of things that we want to get around to. But we have started to much more, certainly with the hot weather now, we were go. We're having dates, and we run a tech agile board to keep on top of our projects. And
you shouldn't tell people that. Sorry. It makes it sound super nerdy.
But this weather, you can't really do a lot. So that is another thing we've had to really slow down. And we've actually started to enjoy life a hell of a lot more. Right? It's we're living rather than working. That thing, we're living to work to living, whatever those expressions are.
That's it.
But our work now is just on the farm, so we enjoy that. So we get to every day do the thing that we love doing. And that's just what we call life now. It's
That's so great.
It's phenomenal, just the change.
We were talking about it the other day, which is like, most people have a job and they do the job, and they call that work. What we do here is work. Pruning trees, weeding the garden,
building stuff,
chipping concrete off walls, building new things. It's work, but it's not a job. And I think that's the biggest change, is knowing that there's lots of work to do, and that's gives you purpose, gives you some structure, gives you fulfillment from getting things done. But because it's not a job and it doesn't feel like a job, it's enjoyable work.
And even the worst jobs are still enjoyable, because at the end of the day you look at it and go, thank God that's done.
It's done.
But it's our done, it's 2 hour, and it took us however long, and we did it our way. And there definitely are some things around here that aren't on, the definitely want to do list. But, they get done, they're necessities. So it's not all roses and unicorns, but it's a hell of a lot better than our previous life. I mean, I would not give this up for
And the crazy thing is,
anything.
I think, as I said earlier, we actually had a very good, nice, enjoyable life in the city, but this is even better, but so different.
But for us,
you can't really compare
I think
them.
a lot of, we were on a Zoom call last night with some friends, and they said, don't you miss hanging out with people? And I was like, no, right? Because I'm so satisfied with life and the simple things, like the really simple things, taking a pear off our own tree and eating it. I mean, it's a simple joy. We get so much of that we don't need to artificially create going out to get joy. It's a really foreign concept, I think, to anyone who perhaps hasn't had that kind of natural joy in their lives.
But you also say that, but we spend more quality time with a smaller group of people here than we did in the city. And we have infinitely more contact with other human beings, but now digitally rather than in person. And those people are all kind of coming to, because there's some kind of shared interest or shared dream or vision or whatever in their own life doing their own thing. And so we get to hang out with a lot of people who are on our same wavelengths that we never really had that much of back in the UK. Which is
trying to find people in a big city who relate to those songs. It's very, very difficult.
All right, we're going to touch on that in just a second, but you guys have traveled a bunch. When we started this, you guys talked about how you were looking at a place to move abroad. And at Expats Everywhere, we believe that living abroad transforms lives. So you guys have chosen to live abroad. You could be doing a similar life back in the UK. So how has living abroad transformed your life?
So it's more going to be transforming. I've been traveling for years. So I left Australia when I was 23. I've traveled the world many times around. I've lived in Africa, Guatemala, and I've traveled a lot, settling then back in the UK. So I think even all of that cumulatively, it already got me to probably that biggest part of change and transformation, which is, adapting to cultures or that meeting just awesome people around the world who just live in different circumstances, but are having the best lives ever. And that I think is a really, once you see that, once you start traveling and seeing that, you start to bring that back to wherever you are. Like you pick up those small things. But this is a second place in the world that you've lived.
For long-term living, it is, and that's a really difficult question to answer because I've only lived here just less than a year, and so I think there's been so much happening that I haven't noticed any major change yet, but it definitely has been a big change. It's like I can't put my finger on it, but. I have to get back to you on that one.
All right, I'll hold you to that.
Sure.
So you guys have done an incredible job with your channel, and you're really impacting the world. Like you said, you have such a broad reach now because you have a channel, and you're speaking with so many people digitally. What's going on with your channel? What's it about? What do you hope it to be? Kind of give us a breakdown of that.
You ask good questions, my friend.
They are good questions.
I think when we first started it, we were like, we have this habit of overthinking things. And we're intelligent people. We like to do research. We like to be informed, and so sometimes that can lead to like analysis paralysis. You're like, but I need to learn more and I need to understand more before I can make the decision. And so I think we just decided, well, let's just document what we're going to do because it's kind of interesting. It's not something that everybody does. So maybe a few people will want to follow along and see what we're up to. And I always feel when we've had like friends and family who they show an interest in a project, but sometimes I wonder if it's always, sometimes like maybe they feel like they have to ask because that's what you're doing. I'm sure that's not the case in most situations, but if you just put it out in a blog, which we actually did before, or on YouTube, then they can choose to watch it. And so you're not like constantly telling, have you seen what we've been doing over in Portugal? And it seems that a lot of people have been interested in just kind of watching and following along, which is fantastic. But it's now something that we're able to kind of use as a platform or as a springboard to deliver some of these bigger messages that we have and have always had, but have never really had the people who were receptive to those kinds of things. So I feel like I'm rambling a little bit. But...
I'll sum it up. So we both have our own kind of reasons for doing YouTube, and yours is much more creative. But I've always, probably for the last 5 or so years, wanted to just inspire people to do stuff. So society often just tells you, oh no, you can't do that. That's too risky. That's too dangerous. That's too whatever. And my mum brought me up just telling me all the time, well, Kylie, what do you want to do? Just do it. Do whatever you want. Like you can do anything. And so many people don't have that. There's school teachers telling you not to do that. There's people telling you have to do this. And we literally all have the ability to do anything we want. Some people it's going to be easier than for others for whatever reason, and we all have our special skill sets that we can do. But my kind of trying to be a role model for people you can move countries, you can renovate a house, you can grow your own stuff, you can make your own clothes, you can do whatever you want. And that's like, it doesn't have to be eco, like it literally can be whatever it is that's, drives you. And it's been my desire for years and years to kind of share that message, but just haven't really previously worked out how to do that when you're caught up in a tech career in London. And so now this has just become a perfect opportunity to encourage people to try those things and do those things and learn by doing, which is another big one of our messages. Just do it. You can not do it very well, but if you don't do it very well, you'll learn what not to do again. And
well, it's how we've learned so many things. Like all the things that we are doing here in terms of the gardening and installing solar and doing the renovation. We didn't know how to do those things before we did them. We watched some YouTube videos, we read some articles and did some research, but you learn so much more through by doing, like learning by doing is a big thing. And it's a big part of the culture of the tech industry, I think. And I think it's an interesting blend of us having those backgrounds and us now doing this kind of homesteady off-grid life kind of stuff is an interesting blend. And I think people you can kind of pick bits from each and go, oh, that's an interesting combination, or you can take some of that into your own life or what have you. And it's been just amazing how many people have said it's so inspiring to just watch what we're doing, which is fantastic. And now we're trying to find ways to encourage people to actually go and do some of those things themselves. Might be a small thing or it might be a big move. And obviously that's a big part of what you guys do as well, which is really, really cool.
So if you guys want to do something, we have created a playlist here for you. If you want to check out our D7 vlogs that we've done. So if you want to learn how to do that, you can click this playlist. And if you want your hand held a little bit with that, we've created a course for you guys to check out. Guy, Kylie, thank you guys so much for meeting with Expats Everywhere.
No worries.
We appreciate it.
It's been great.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Let's get moving. Bye.